Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jenny, and today we're talking about the Santa Claus.
Yay. This is my favorite Christmas movie.
I think it's mine too. Did you grow up watching this?
Yes, I did. My family's favorite is probably Elf, but I love this one. It's just so nostalgic to me.
Yeah, me too. I think I watched it all the time when I was little because we had it on VHS, so I watched it regardless of if it was December or not. Like, it was just a staple.
I love that. It's so heartwarming and just familiar. I love it. Okay, so the log line for this movie is when a man inadvertently makes Santa fall off his roof on Christmas Eve, he finds himself magically recruited to take his place.
This premise is so unique. Is it not?
No, it definitely is.
Like, I love it.
I love it too. This movie is available to stream on Disney Plus, but you can rent it a bunch of other places. Although I feel like a lot of us have Disney Plus now. Is that where you watched it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so getting into the background of the movie, there's actually a decent amount of fun facts about this one. I found a lot of these on a website called Dipley.com. So if you know that that's not reliable, let me know. I feel like normally when I'm looking stuff up, I find things from all kinds of places. And I found something that just had like a ton of background like knowledge. So it was great. So this movie was partially filmed in Toronto and then partially at a studio called Raleigh Studios in LA.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then I feel like you always have these fun facts, but there were a handful of people that were considered for the role of Santa before Tim Allen got it, including Tom Hanks, which I could totally see.
Yes.
Tom Selleck and Mel Gibson.
Okay, interesting. I also saw that Chevy Chase and Bill Murray turned down the role, and they had both been in Christmas stuff before, so I could see it. I could see why they were chosen.
So the order of events here confused me a little bit because I read that Tim Allen is the one who brought the project to the director, John Paskin, I think is how you say his name. And the director originally turned it down because he did a bunch of family content before and wanted to move away from it, but then eventually came around.
Oh, interesting.
So we've heard that producers will pick up a script that they really like and then will attach a lead actor or actress to it and then bring it to studios and directors. So I wonder if, like, maybe the production company was passing this around to all these people, in quotes, that were considered to be Santa, and then landed on Tim Allen, and then Tim Allen brought it to the director.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I bet that is what happened. Like, he was somehow attached to it already, and then that's how they got the director.
And this actually was his first movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Or at least I read that, or maybe it was one of his first, but before this, he was really just a stand-up, and then he was known for Home Improvement.
Okay. Yeah, Home Improvement was the TV show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then this movie crushed in the box office. It brought in over $189 million on a budget of $22 million, which I can't imagine they expected that, because that's like wild numbers.
What year was this?
1994.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, were you in the movies? Did you go to the theaters? You were not alive yet. Neither was I.
Nope, not alive. Yeah, close. I read that because it was 1994, Tim Allen had the #1 movie at the box office, this movie obviously, the #1 show, Home Improvement, and the #1 book, which is called Don't Stand Too Close to a Naked Man. I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe like a comedy book or something?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know, but you will not be surprised to hear this. Apparently, the original draft of the script was much darker.
Oh, gosh.
Sounds familiar.
Yes.
What is with everybody wanting to make holiday movies dark? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Anyway, I could get behind it, potentially. But this one, apparently, in the original draft of the script, Scott Calvin was supposed to shoot and kill Santa after mistaking him for a burglar.
Oh, my gosh, no.
I know. Can you imagine
No.
just dead, bleeding Santa in the snow? Like, how? How?
I was going to say, it's already dark. It's already dark that Santa falls off of a roof and then just disappears. Like, it's creepy.
It is creepy. Watching this as an adult, because I don't think I've seen it in a couple years, was interesting because you can see, or at least I saw this time, much more of Scott Calvin's tendencies to, like, I have a really good lawyer and, like, running outside the first thing Christmas morning to, like, see if there's a dead guy outside his house, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, just, it is interesting. It is a little bit darker than I think it seems first watch.
Yeah, and there's lots of adult humor, which I think is probably why it did so well, right? Like, this is kind of the humor of the time, too.
Totally. Okay, you want to get into the cast?
Yeah, so we have Tim Allen. I totally forgot that he plays Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
But now I can't unsee it.
I know. I always forget. And then his voice is so iconic, though. So it is interesting, though, that Tom Hanks was supposedly considered for this role because Tom Hanks is Woody. And so we have like the two of them in a bunch of stuff together.
Wait, I didn't know that. I didn't know Tom Hanks was Woody.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have to talk about Tim Allen. He is known for being very conservative. He has made some very insensitive jokes before. He's made some not awesome claims that he doesn't support diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So, problematic figure, I would say.
Don't like that.
Which makes me so disappointed because I love this movie so much. And like, I researched this after we watched it, and part of me was like, do we even cover it? And like, I think this is just always a topic in art where it's like, do you still appreciate the thing, even if a person that was involved in the thing is somebody that you don't personally support? And I think it's just always going to be a factor.
Yeah, well, that's why we break down the cast, because we like to know who they really are, you know?
Yeah. Something interesting with him is there were rumors that the reason that they didn't use Tim Allen for Buzz Lightyear's voice in the movie Lightyear, which is Buzz's backstory, is because of all of this kind of like drama and controversy and people maybe not liking him or not supporting him as much anymore in public. But Lightyear didn't do well in the box office, and I think Disney maybe defended against those claims, saying, no, because the movie is about the person that the Buzz Lightyear doll is based on, so it is supposed to be a different person.
Okay.
I don't know if I buy that, but they are bringing Tim Allen back for Toy Story 5, now that they're making a Toy Story 5. So I kind of wonder if, like, the thought was if Lightyear crushed, then they would just use Chris Evans, who played Buzz in Lightyear, moving forward. But it doesn't seem that way. And they also just made another season of The Santa Clauses, which is the TV show based on the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. And that's on Disney Plus. So I'm like, Disney clearly is down to continue working with him. But maybe at the time they were casting Lightyear, all of this stuff was kind of coming to light. So I don't know.
He has been in like every sequel, right? Of the Santa Claus?
Yep. It's him and everything. And the show. So.
And did you know his daughter is in the show with him?
I did know that.
I think that's cute.
I haven't seen it though. Have you seen it?
No.
I watched like the beginning of the first episode, I think a year ago or whenever it came out a couple years ago, and was so excited because I love this movie so much. And it started and I just remember the very beginning of it was like really making fun of outrage culture. And I can't remember exactly why. It was like I think maybe it was like making fun of the fact that they don't talk about Christmas in school anymore because they don't talk about specific holidays in school anymore. And I was just like, this is not for me. It's not for me. I don't really, yeah. So I don't know.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, noted. Something else, sort of. I don't know if this is funny, but I felt like it was kind of funny. He was arrested in the 70s for smuggling coke.
Tim Allen?
Yeah.
That is insane. Wow.
Yeah. I think it was like the late 70s. He was like flying with 1.5 pounds of coke or something into the US and was arrested. But I think he like named some names and got off on a lighter sentence. I have not fact checked that, but I did read it.
It's giving Orange is the New Black. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah. And to be honest, the rest of the cast we haven't seen a lot of. So we can run through them really quick, and I'm going to name some of the things that you guys may have seen them in. But I honestly feel like for most of these people, their big thing, or at least their most recent big thing, was the Santa Clauses. So first we have Eric Lloyd, who plays Charlie. I love Charlie in this movie. He's so cute.
He's so cute.
And he was a pretty big child actor. He did a bunch of stuff as a little kid, but since then has just kind of sparingly done a couple episodes of TV, like some guest star things, some smaller movies, but not a lot and not often. He was, though, in one episode of The Santa Clauses, the show, which is not a surprise, really. And something kind of cute and funny, but also not, that I read is that he was 8 when he filmed this, and he fell on set and busted his front bottom 2 teeth. And so the orthodontist had to make him like fake ones to wear during this movie. I know.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. And then David Krumholtz, I think is how you say his name, plays Bernard. Had you seen him in anything before? Because I did not remember recognizing him, but I've seen some of the things that he's also in.
Same. I didn't recognize him in anything, but I think you're about to remind me what he's been in.
He was in Harold and Kumar, 10 Things I Hate About You, Numbers, the show.
Oh, yeah.
The movie Addams Family Values, and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, okay, I saw Oppenheimer recently with him.
Yeah.
Interesting. I loved Bernard. Bernard is like my favorite character. He's like the sassy, kind of grumpy elf.
Yeah.
Love it.
Me too. And he just like looks so different in this movie compared to everything else. Like, 'cause he has his little dreads and he's in his like elf outfit. So I just like, I never put together that he was in any of those other things.
No, and he was so young in this.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have Wendy Crewson, who plays Laura Miller, which, can I just say, I watch things on with subtitles now, and until I watched this year with subtitles, I thought her name was Nora.
Oh, that would have been cute, like the N and Nora and Neil.
Yeah. I don't know why. I was like watching it, and I was like, surely the subtitles are wrong. Like, I know they're wrong. I know they say Nora for sure. And then I was researching it, and I was like, oh, I guess it is Laura. She is a Canadian actress and producer, actually. I didn't know she was Canadian. And so for our Canadian listeners, you guys maybe recognize her. She did a bunch of Canadian TV before she did these movies.
I wish she was in more stuff because I really like her in this movie. Like, I think she's great.
Me too. I really like her.
And then we have Neil Miller, played by Judge Reinhold. Is that his name? Judge?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he was really big in the 80s. He was in a bunch of things that you guys might at least recognize the names of. I know I did. Stripes, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Gremlins, and Ruthless People.
Okay.
So I think probably if you were in our parents' generation or even just a little bit older than us and you watched all these movies when you were growing up, he would probably be the one along with Tim Allen that you would recognize watching this now. But yeah, I feel like I just haven't seen a lot of these people since then, which is a bummer because they're so good and I love this movie.
I love this movie so much. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
So Scott Calvin, Tim Allen, goes to his office holiday party. I don't know what it is with Christmas movies having an office holiday party, but they all do.
Yeah.
And he wins an award for his launch of this toy called Do It All For You Dolly, which was this huge success.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of a jerk. He's like taking the mic from his partner and you just like don't get good vibes from him.
Yes. They're making him out to be this kind of like money hungry, savvy business salesman kind of guy. So he leaves the party and is late to go meet his ex-wife and his son, and it's Christmas Eve. He, I think, calls Laura to say that he's going to be late and is faking that he's in traffic and is like honking, even though we see that there's nobody on the roads. So he's trying to blame the fact that there's traffic on his tardiness, but really it's just that he stayed at the party later. And then when he gets back to his house, he's meeting Laura, his ex, Charlie, his son, and Neil, Laura's new husband. And we immediately can tell that he hates Neil, which is kind of a funny gag that like continues through all the movies.
Yeah, he just rags on Neil the whole time, especially his sweaters.
Yes, especially Neil's sweaters. And you can just tell, like you were saying, we are just meant to think that Scott is the worst. Like, he's being a jerk, he's late, you can tell doesn't really care. And you can tell that Charlie doesn't really want to stay, which like makes me sad. Mm-hmm. He asks if his mom will come pick him up early the next morning.
Yeah, it's really sad.
And while they're dropping Charlie off, Charlie mentions that Neil said that he doesn't believe in Santa. And he says, quote, Neil's smart, he's a doctor. And you can tell Scott just hates this because Neil is a therapist and he like doesn't think that counts. And he gets super mad at Laura for letting Neil tell Charlie that Santa isn't real. So they're getting in this little spat about it. And Charlie asks them to stop fighting. And it's just, it sucks.
Yeah,
Makes me
it's so
sad for him.
sad. So Scott starts making a turkey, even though it's like super late at night. He's like, it's going to take 4 hours for this turkey. Like, he did not plan this at all.
No.
He just thought he could just like cook a turkey in 30 minutes. I don't know. And he burns it, like sets fire to the oven multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So they go out to Denny's because Denny's is open 24/7. And when they're there, there's this waitress named Judy who's very like sassy and tells them they're out of basically everything that Charlie wants, like eggnog, chocolate milk, apple pie, none of it. And then all the single dads are in Denny's with their kids.
Yeah.
Which is just sad, but cute.
Yeah. The timeline of this Christmas Eve is always so confusing to me. So I'm like, he was at a work party where people were like drinking. And so I'm like, that probably wasn't during the work day, although maybe it was meant to be. And then comes home and then makes a turkey for 4 hours and then gets to Denny's where everybody else is there eating dinner as if it's dinner time. It's just so weird.
I was thinking like maybe the party was right after work. And so maybe it's like 7.
Yeah.
But then he's getting dinner at like 8 or 9 p.m. I don't know. It is confusing.
We'll just suspend reality. We'll buy in. So when they get home, Scott reads The Night Before Christmas to Charlie, and Charlie like can't fall asleep and is asking him all these questions about Santa, Santa's magical abilities. And finally he asks his dad, well, do you believe in Santa? And it's just so cute because we can tell that Charlie really wants to believe in Santa, but like his mom and Neil are so like realistic and grounded and tell him the truth and like said that they don't believe in Santa. So Charlie's been kind of like skewed. And then when his dad says, yes, I believe in it, you can tell that just like makes Charlie happy and like makes him want to believe it too.
This brings to mind the conversation that we had in our Elf episode about telling our kids about Santa.
Mm-hmm.
This movie makes me want to tell my kids about Santa.
Me
you know
too.
what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I don't want to be the Laura and the Neil in this situation.
I agree. Brian and I had this debate again like last week or something after we had talked about it on the Elf episode. I was like, I don't know how you feel about this. And we're both just torn, but watching this, I completely agree. Like, I don't want to be the fun sucker parent. No, thank you.
Yeah, and it was so much fun for me.
It was so much fun. Yeah, it was like magical.
I don't resent my parents for it.
No.
Maybe we're like too careful nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. So Charlie goes to sleep and is woken up by a quote, clatter, which is very cute. I think he maybe even says that, like, a clatter, and then runs outside. And he gets his dad, who hears it too. And his dad obviously, like, thinks that it's an intruder or something's happening, whereas Charlie's running around saying, like, it's Santa. And so Scott, before he runs outside, asks Charlie if he knows how to call 911. And I thought this was so funny and cute because Charlie says, sure, 911. Like, he's just kind of a smart aleck. It's really cute. And so Scott runs outside and sees a man in a Santa suit on the roof and yells at him, which startles him, and Santa falls off the roof.
This would be scary, to be fair.
Absolutely.
Like, if you see a man in a Santa suit on your roof trying to get in your chimney, no thank you.
Hate it. No thank you.
And very dark that he just falls off the roof. And then Scott Calvin is like digging in his suit to find some kind of identification. And he finds a card that says to put on the Santa suit if anything happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charlie and Scott notice a sleigh and reindeer on the roof.
Yes.
And there's this creepy scene where the Santa suit just like deflates as the body disappears. I do not like this.
But also, I don't know what else you would do in a kid's movie.
I don't know. But also, like, Santa dying like that, that's so gruesome.
I know. I still, even now, I'm just like, I don't want it to be that he died. I want it to be like, if you fall, then you can't be Santa anymore. But it's definitely death. It's definitely death.
If you fall, it means you're retired and someone else has to be Santa.
Yeah. So then as they're kind of walking back towards the house, Scott runs into a ladder that's leaning up against the house that has appeared. And I think this detail is so cute. On the ladder, it says the Arose Suchuk Ladder Company. So it's like the Arose Such a Clatter line from the book, but just like turned into the like ladder company name. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
So Charlie immediately climbs up it. He's like, ooh, and gets to go pet the reindeer. And so Scott has to follow him, obviously, to make sure he's okay and to check everything out.
And then they get into the sleigh and the reindeer just like take off. The CGI is kind of funny. Is that CGI?
I don't know. It's giving like old Disney World animatronic animals. I don't know how they did it. I was trying to look it up and I couldn't find anything. But I imagine they had some sort of combination of like a robot reindeer, because that's what it looks like an animatronic, combined with they would have had to do CGI, some kind of CGI to show them flying. So I don't know, but it's not pleasant.
No, and they just like yeet off of the roof, and then and then Scott is like refusing to put on the suit, but Charlie says, "How come everything I want to do is stupid?" And this like breaks Scott's heart a little bit, and he puts on the suit. He gets the sack of toys, and they're like on the next house already. And his sack of toys inflates like a balloon and then like sucks him down the chimney. Is that how it works?
Yeah. They lift him up like a balloon and then he gets pushed down the chimney. It's wild looking.
Very creative.
Very creative. And so this first house, he pulls all of the toys out of the bag, delivers them, and then gets chased by a dog back up the chimney. So it's like a stressful first experience, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
At the next place, Scott gets sucked in through the tiny chimney. This is always a scene that I remember from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you got to be kidding me. And then it sucks him through. And there's a little girl sleeping on the couch when he gets down there. And it's like a very hilarious interaction, even though he's way meaner than I remembered him being. He's like so rude to this little girl and telling her to go back to sleep. She tells him to drink the milk. And then he sarcastically tells her that he's lactose intolerant, which this comes back later.
Yeah, he's giving the Grinch in this, but like the Jim Carrey Grinch. Yes,
totally. And so as the night goes on, Scott just kind of grows into being in the spirit. He like sees Charlie in the back of the sleigh playing with a puppy, and just like he's seeing how much Charlie enjoys it. And I think that kind of warms him to what's going on, and he just decides to enjoy it. And even at the end, he says, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. When I wake up, I'm getting a CAT scan."
So funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thinks that the reindeer are taking him home, but they actually take them to the North Pole. There's an elf that opens a garage door thing for them, and then they're lowered into this gigantic toy workshop, which I remember being infatuated with this when I was a kid.
Completely.
He calls this elf a kid, and the elf is like, I have pointy shoes that are older than you.
Yeah.
Because all of the elves look like kids.
Yeah.
That's when we meet Bernard. And Bernard is an elf. He looks kind of older than all the other kids, but he's still a kid for sure. Like a teenager, maybe. Bernard greets Scott Calvin as Santa, and he gives Charlie this snow globe that shows Santa flying in his sleigh. And he like kind of sends him away to go get food while he explains to Scott his new role.
Mm-hmm. And Scott is totally in denial. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I asked the reindeer to take me home. And Bernard explains that when he put on the Santa suit, he fell subject to the Santa Claus, the clause, which I never noticed this, but Santa Claus is spelled C-L-A-U-S, and this movie spells it Claus, C-L-A-U-S-E, because of this Santa Claus. I never put that together.
It's so cute.
Yeah. They look at the card under a magnifying glass, and Scott can read all the fine print that goes around the edges of the card that explains that he is Santa now, and by putting the suit on, he assumes all of the responsibilities.
So he finds out that he has 11 months to get his affairs in order, and then he has to be at the North Pole by Thanksgiving, and the naughty and nice list will like get shipped to him.
Mm-hmm.
Bernard says if he chooses not to do it, then there will be millions of disappointed children around the world. And he'll kill the spirit of Christmas, which is so dramatic.
Big downer. Then we get one of my other favorite scenes where Judy, the elf, who she's so cute, I love her. She takes Scott and Charlie to their room where she gives him SC monogrammed pajamas for Santa Claus. And she gives them hot cocoa. They have this really cute heart-to-heart where Judy says that kids don't have to see Santa's workshop to believe that it's real. And that believing is just enough for them. And I think having this like real conversation with somebody about what's going on that's not Bernard, who's being argumentative, I think just kind of like softens him to it a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Also, like this whole scene is kind of creepy now when I watch it. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I hate the bedroom, if that's what you're going to talk about.
It's scary. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why does Santa have toys in his bedroom? I don't need that.
Agreed. I hate it. Honestly, the whole workshop was like a little bit underwhelming seeing it again as an adult, because I remember, like you, it just being so magical, but it just kind of looks like a giant classroom everywhere. Like everywhere you look, there's just like toys and like primary colors only. It's like not as cute.
So the next morning, Scott and Charlie wake up in their own beds, and Charlie is so excited because it's Christmas and he, wants to look at all the presents that he got. And Scott is having a hard time waking up, and there's this long, drawn-out scene where he's waking up, and then the covers pull back, and we see that he is still wearing the monogrammed PJs from the North Pole.
And so Laura gets there to pick up Charlie, and Charlie is like ecstatic. Charlie is like, I had the best night ever with my dad. It was the best Christmas ever. And he starts telling Laura everything that happened. And she's a little bit annoyed with Scott for encouraging this story when her and Neil had said that they don't believe in Santa to Charlie. And that's kind of where they leave it for Christmas. It's sort of like Scott says he had this crazy dream, Charlie remembers this elaborate story, and Laura's kind of annoyed by the whole thing. And then we kind of jump in time.
Yeah, and like Scott too, doesn't he like brush it off because he's like, oh, the waitress at Denny's was named Judy.
Yes.
So that's where Charlie is getting that there was a Judy elf.
Mm-hmm. And SC on the pajamas is for Scott Calvin. That type of thing.
But how did you get those, sir?
I know. I'm like, this feels like, yeah. Anyway.
So Charlie's class does a Parents' Day, and he's got Neil and Scott in there to talk about their jobs. He wants Scott to go first, and he introduces Scott as Santa. He's like, my dad is awesome because he's Santa Claus. Scott tries to explain to everyone that his actual job is as a toys salesman, and Charlie's just confused, but Charlie insists that he's Santa Claus, and this just causes a whole bunch of problems where they end up in the school counselor's office, and the school counselor insists that Scott explain to Charlie that he's not Santa, which I thought this whole thing was like just overblown. Mm-hmm. It's just a kid.
Yeah, like if a kid said that in class, I don't think I would take it to the extreme of like, something's going on at home, you all need to be present to talk to the principal. I agree. It seemed like kind of a lot. Especially when Scott kept explaining that he is a toy salesman and he's like, kind of like Santa, quote unquote. So I don't know. I agree. It seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
So Scott actually goes far enough to try to tell Charlie that it's not true. And Charlie just refuses to accept it because he's like, no, I was there. So then Laura finds Charlie in his room playing Santa. And we basically come to understand that Charlie has just become obsessed with this whole thing and has been since it happened. And ultimately, Neil and Laura have a conversation about whether they should stop letting Charlie see Scott at all because they think he's just a bad influence and this is getting in Charlie's head.
Yeah, that's so sad.
I know.
And so Scott and Charlie go on a walk after this conversation about whether Charlie should still be able to see Scott. And Scott's like, okay, look, we have to keep this North Pole thing a secret. People can't know about this anymore. You can't talk about it anymore. Which I kind of think is a good move because, like, you know, Charlie's not going to give this up. Like, he knows what he saw.
I think it's the only thing he could have done. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. And then Scott wakes up one morning and he's much heavier and he has, like, this heavy beard. I always remembered these scenes the most. Like, when I think of this movie, this is what I think of.
Totally. He rushes into the office and he's wearing this gray sweatsuit because it's the only thing that will fit him. And obviously he looks very different. He is much heavier. He has the beard, like you said. And everybody is so rude to him. I hated it.
They're horrible.
Yeah. It's like very classic early 2000s. Just like, it isn't even really joke. Because there are a couple jokes made throughout the scene. But like everybody's just being outwardly so rude because of his weight, which sucks. And yeah, anyway, hated that.
Yeah.
He does, however, order basically the whole dessert menu. And I think the purpose of this scene is to just show us how quickly Scott changed, which in that way accomplished.
Yeah. And everyone's like having salads and he's got the full Santa menu.
Yeah.
Cookies and milk.
Yeah. And then the next part I think is so funny. In the meeting, they're going over an ad that shows Santa riding a tank. Like the tank is the toy and they're showing Santa riding it as like a commercial. And Scott objects. Scott, you can tell his brain just like flipped into Santa mode because he's very like, we shouldn't be doing this at all. Santa would never ride a tank. And we should develop an inexpensive creativity toy instead, which like is the exact opposite of the MO of like this toy company that wants to like overcharge and, you know, make money. And so his boss pulls him aside and is like, I don't know what's going on with you, but you need to get some help.
So then we see another iconic scene. Scott is running on a treadmill at the doctor. You know, he's got like a bigger belly, a big white beard, but he is healthy as a horse. His pulse is great. His heartbeat is in tune with Jingle Bells, I think. And the doctor is just like, yeah, you're fine. It's just hormones and aging and, you know, whatever. You're good.
Yeah, I think the doctor is like, and what's your diet been like? He goes, oh, milk and cookies. And the doctor's like, that's your problem. Just change that and you'll be great. He goes to one of Charlie's soccer games and this little girl is like walking up towards him and like taps him on the shoulder and then sits on his lap and says what she wants for Christmas. So it's sort of like Scott has this aura around him now where children know. And a big line forms, like waiting to sit on Scott's lap, which does not help his case with Laura and Neil, who show up and see this line. And they're like, what is going on? Like, he must actually believe he's Santa too, which is like big red flags, obviously, to them.
You know, anyone at a kid's soccer game who's having kids line up and sit on their lap, like that is a big red flag. I get it.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we get this scene where Santa's list arrives with a note from Bernard that tells Scott to check it twice. It's like in boxes that fill up his entire house. Then Scott walks down the street and he knows which kids are naughty and nice just by looking at them, just like Bernard said that he would.
And then we get the iconic shaving scene where Scott is shaving his beard, which I think he told somebody or told the doctor he was shaving every day. He shaves his whole beard off and then wipes his face, and we see the beard grow back, which I always remember this part of the movie too.
I do too. I love it.
And then we see Neil and Laura take Charlie to a judge to revoke Scott's visitation rights. And this was just so sad. But while Charlie is talking to the judge, Laura and Neil talk about their own Christmas disappointments, and we learn why neither of them believed in Santa from an early age. And it's because Laura wanted a mystery date board game, and she wrote a letter to Santa, I think, every day or every week or something until Christmas that year. And Neil wanted an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle, and neither of them got it, even though it was the only thing they asked for. And then neither of them believed in Santa ever again.
So sad. Neil being 3 makes so much sense for his character.
100%. And ultimately, the judge does take away Scott's visitation rights. And it's just sad because we see Charlie come out, and Charlie definitely thinks the judge is like a safe, person to confide in, and tells his dad, don't worry, I told the judge everything.
Yeah.
And then they take his rights away. So that was sad.
Yeah. So sad.
But I understand.
Yeah, I understand too. It's just like, how do you explain it? I don't know. And doesn't it happen on Christmas Eve?
Oh, maybe. Scott goes to visit Neil and Laura anyway, and while he's there, Charlie shows him the snow globe to get him to remember everything. And the snow globe is magical, so he shows it to him in hopes that he'll see it and get it, and he does. And this confuses me because they act almost as if this jogs Scott's memory, but Scott, at least since his transformation, knew that he was Santa, right?
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, hold on, why did looking at the snow globe, why did it seem like all of a sudden he knows that he's Santa when this entire time it's obvious that he's Santa,
Mm-hmm, totally.
Okay, I'm glad you were with me on that.
Yeah, and he had the list before this, so it's just I don't know, it's weird.
And then Scott asks for a moment alone with Charlie, and while they're alone, Bernard appears. When Laura returns, Charlie, Scott, and Bernard have all disappeared. I was like, okay, this is kidnapping.
Seriously, yes. This surprised me. They have a cute little smirk between them and then leave. I'm like, not gonna help your case.
You can't do that.
Absolutely not gonna help your case. Yeah. So obviously they get the police involved because their son is missing. And they begin arresting Santas all over the city, which is kind of funny.
It is.
And then at the North Pole, the elves demonstrate this new James Bond-ish technology to Scott, which will help protect him as Santa. And he obviously is mostly worried about falling off roofs because that's how he became Santa the year before. And so this new suit is supposed to help him not get burned by fires. And I can't remember if it helps him not fall off the roof, but there's a bunch of tech advances that they've added, which is kind of cute.
Also, can we just take a moment to just ask ourselves why the elves aren't mourning their original Santa? Why do they not care?
I was so confused by this, especially in the very beginning. They're happy to see Scott when he shows up. And I'm like, did you guys know that the other Santa died? Maybe you were alert, but you're happy to see him. It's confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird how he's just replaceable. I don't know. Anyway, Scott takes off to deliver presents, including going back to the little girl's house who made sure to give him soy milk because he was lactose intolerant. And he's much nicer to her this time, so it makes us feel better. And when he gets to Neil and Laura's house, the police arrest him. And Charlie is left on the roof. This confused me a little bit, but he's just on the roof.
He's just in the sleigh, I guess, on the roof. And so the elves at the North Pole deploy what they call the, all caps, elves, the Elf Liberation Fight Squad, I think. Anyway, they deploy this little squad of elves to go get Charlie and to save Santa. And they end up confronting the cop at the desk. First they pick up Charlie, And then they go confront the cop that's at the front desk of the like police station. And they say, "We're your worst nightmare, elves with attitude." Which I'm just like, this is where Brian was like, it falls off the rails here. Like, there should not be a squad of elves. Like, it's such a cute premise, and it just devolves by the end.
I think from the second Santa gets a new fireproof suit, that's where we become unhinged.
Yeah. So they use their like elf tools, and they wrap the desk sergeant in ribbon so that he can't move, and then they rip open Scott's cell door with tinsel and release him. And they all go back to Laura and Neil's house to like drop Charlie back off.
Here's where I want your opinion. It kind of confuses me. So then Scott is in the house with Laura and Neil and Charlie. They think that their son just got kidnapped by his dad, who thinks he's Santa Claus. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then Scott tells Charlie he has to stay with Laura and Neil and thanks him for believing in him when no one else did. And then Laura goes, "It's really you," or something like that. And I was like, okay, what?
Like, how did we get here?
Like, shouldn't you be upset that your son was kidnapped by him and now you... Wait, I think it's just magic.
Yes, that's what I've always chalked it up to, is it's like the same way that really early on the kids all knew that it was him. Now it's like reaching other people. I don't know. Like, it's a Santa magic thing, because you're right. Logically, no sense.
No. But Neil and Laura believe in Santa. They believe that Scott is Santa magically. And Laura burns her custody papers. So I guess that means that it doesn't matter anymore. I don't think that's how it works, but...
I know. I was like, is someone going to tell the judge, though?
Someone needs to.
Or the cops. I don't know. And so as they're saying goodbye and Scott is about to go back to the North Pole, Bernard appears and tells Charlie that he can call Scott back anytime by shaking the snow globe, which is sweet. He gets to use like the magical snow globe to get back in contact with his dad. And then Bernard compliments Neil's sweater, which is incredible.
Yeah, after Scott has just been like shitting on the sweaters the whole movie.
Yeah. Leave it to Bernard, you know? And so just as Scott leaves, he flies away with his reindeer. The police show up to the house.
Neil apologizes to Charlie, and Charlie goes, "That's okay, Neil. You're just denying your inner child." Which is so cute.
That might be my favorite line of the whole movie. It's so funny.
So cute. And then Neil is like, "You'd make a really good psychiatrist one day." And Charlie goes, "I think I'm going to go in the family business."
So cute. And then as Scott is flying away, he drops a couple presents, including a weenie whistle for Neil and the mystery date game for Laura.
So they're happy.
And then pretty much right after this, Charlie calls Scott back one more time with his snow globe now that he knows he can do that. And they take a quick little lap around the neighborhood, which I thought was sweet.
Yeah. Yay. And that was the end of the movie. And I think like the snow globe makes it better because am I correct in thinking that basically Scott is like, okay, I have to go live at the North Pole now. Like, I'm giving up my life in the real world.
Yes, I think so.
And you're going to stay with your mom and Neil?
I think that was supposed to be the point, and they did not make this clear, but I think it was supposed to be the point of when Scott and Charlie have that talk about not being selfish, like right towards the end. Like when he brings Charlie back, Scott says like, "I want to stay here with you and I want you to come with me, but that's not fair to your mom and Neil and we're all one big family and you need to spend time with them too." And then Charlie says, "And I'm not going to be selfish because even though I want to be with you, you need to go to the North Pole to be able to like make Christmas happen for all these kids." So I think that was the point because yes, I think he has to go like live there now.
Which is really sad. I don't like that.
I know.
But the snow globe makes it better because it's kind of like he can... Like, Charlie can see his dad whenever he wants.
Yeah. So that's a wrap on the movie. And there's a Santa Claus 2 and a Santa Claus 3 and the Santa Clauses show, which has a second season that just came out. So there's no shortage if you want to watch even more.
Yeah, I love this movie. And I remember liking the sequels, too, at least when I was a kid.
Me too. I might watch them. I especially like, I think I like the second one the best because that one has Carol.
Oh, is that his girlfriend?
Mm-hmm.
And then Mrs. Claus?
Yeah. I like that one. I don't like the third one as much. Yeah, sorry. The third one that has Jack Frost, Martin Short in it, and like the fake Santa, I don't like that one as much. That one is a little bit unhinged.
Yeah, same. Well, it was really fun getting to watch this movie again. I really enjoyed watching it again. I think I will watch this one every year.
I love this one. It's just such like I said this at the beginning, it's so nostalgic. It's not that long, and it's just like such an easy thing to put on to like really get in the spirit. So I totally recommend it.
Yeah. And if you are celebrating any holidays this week, I hope that you enjoy. And thank you so much for listening.
We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.